The meeting was called a clarification, but clarifications don't require outside counsel, and they don't create silence before they begin. Daniel arrived 25 minutes early, earlier than he had in years. He told himself it was discipline, preparation, professionalism, but he recognized something under that narrative. He was anticipating resistance. The legal memo sat in front of him. He had read it 3 times already. The wording was careful, measured, non-accusatory, but thin. There was no measurable performance failure documented, only language around cohesion, alignment, strategic velocity, words that feel decisive in conversation, but dissolve under contractual language. The room began to fill slowly. Board members entered with the usual composed energy, but their posture was different. Less conversational, more observant. One placed his notebook down and immediately opened it. Another skimmed the legal memo before sitting. Margaret entered last, as always, unrushed, composed. She greeted no one individually. She simply sat. Elena entered quietly a moment later. No defiance, no tension, no apology. She did not seek eye contact, but she did not avoid it either. She was steady. That steadiness unsettled Daniel more than confrontation would have. The meeting began. Daniel spoke first. As you know, legal recommended a procedural clarification regarding our recent governance adjustment. Adjustment. He continued to avoid the word removal. We are simply ensuring continuity compliance. Simply. He kept his tone level. Calm, confident. He summarized the rationale again. Elena's technical contributions, the need for executive alignment, the importance of maintaining strategic momentum in sensitive growth phases. His voice carried authority. It always had, but authority depends on absorption. And the room was no longer absorbing automatically. It was evaluating. He felt it. Still, he continued. Elena's forecasts were conservative relative to expansion targets. He paused. To ensure alignment, we adjusted oversight structure. No accusation, no blame, just narrative. He expected nods. Instead, he got stillness. A board member spoke. Were the forecasts inaccurate? Daniel answered immediately. No. Were cost controls compromised? No. Were compliance thresholds breached? No. Each answer narrowed the path. He remained composed. Margaret closed her folder gently. The sound cut through the room more sharply than any raised voice. Daniel, she said. The air changed. When you say alignment, define it. Her tone was neutral, almost curious. He replied smoothly, alignment between executive pacing and market opportunity. Was market opportunity declining? She asked. No. Was investor confidence unstable? No. Then what instability was addressed? There it was, the first visible fracture. Daniel felt the shift in the room, not rebellion, scrutiny. It was projected instability, he said carefully. Margaret held his gaze. Projected by whom? By strategic assessment and documented as performance deficiency? The silence that followed felt physical. Daniel inhaled slowly. We documented concerns around executive cohesion. Margaret nodded once. Cohesion is not listed under Clause 14.2. No accusation, just fact. A board member shifted in his seat. Another leaned back, folding his arms. Daniel felt pressure building, not hostility, pressure. Governance agreements do not capture every nuance of leadership, he said firmly. Margaret responded without hesitation. They capture accountability. The room tightened. Daniel felt something unfamiliar, the need to defend. He shifted from calm to controlled firmness. Are we suggesting the board acted irresponsibly? Margaret's voice did not change. We're suggesting the board may have acted without measurable documentation. The distinction was devastating. Not irresponsible. Exposed. No one rushed to defend him. That silence was louder than argument. Daniel noticed it immediately. Elena remained still. Her hands folded calmly in front of her. She did not speak. She did not smile. She did not react. Her silence amplified the structure of the conversation. If she had attacked, the board might have rallied around him, but she did nothing, which forced the room to focus on process. A board member asked cautiously, "If an investor reviews this, what is our defense?" Daniel answered quickly, "There is no active investor review." Margaret interjected softly, "Exposure does not require activation." That sentence altered the temperature completely. Daniel realized something then. This was not about Elena returning to oversight. This was about credibility. If the board appeared to manipulate documentation language loosely, it weakened collective authority. He recalibrated. If supplemental documentation is required, we will provide it. Margaret nodded. That would be prudent. Prudent. The word carried weight, not optional, necessary. The conversation continued. More questions, more precision. Daniel answered all of them, articulate, composed, but he could feel the shift. The automatic trust had thinned. No one opposed him, but no one leaned into his framing either. The meeting ended without a reversal, without a vote, without drama, but something fundamental had changed. Margaret stood slowly. Before leaving, she paused beside him, quietly. "Influence builds authority," she said. "Structure sustains it." Then she left. Daniel remained seated, longer than usual. The room emptied, city lights reflected across the glass walls. He replayed the exchange, each question, each pause, each moment of silence where no one defended him. He had removed Elena because she slowed momentum. He framed it as alignment. But alignment is elastic, documentation is not. He recognized something uncomfortable. He had grown accustomed to leading without friction. Elena introduced friction, and he interpreted friction as threat. But friction sometimes reveals weakness. He stood and walked to the window. For years he had believed authority was built through confidence. And it was. But confidence unexamined becomes assumption, and assumption under review becomes vulnerability. He was not defeated, but he was recalculating. Downstairs, Elena exited the building into the cold air. She did not feel triumph. She did not feel vindicated. She felt balance. The system had responded, not to her, to structure. That mattered more. The crack was small, almost invisible. But cracks alter architecture. The board would now question more carefully. Legal would document more precisely. Language would tighten. Influence would require evidence. And Daniel would adapt. Because he understood something critical now. Authority unexamined is fragile. Authority tested can evolve. They thought the vote restored stability. It introduced accountability, and accountability does not shout, it waits.